This afternoon I'm in Pisa, Italy, just arrived by sea from Bastia, Corsica. You can see that in the last video in this series.
Well, I've made it here to the Leaning Tower of Pisa, somewhere I've always wanted to see, so I'm pleased to have finally got here. Now, one thing you won't see me doing on this channel is any silly poses or dances leaning over, like all the people do on Instagram. I nearly called them something else then. Once I've left here, I'm off on the Freccio Bianca train, down south to Civitavecchia, for my ferry onwards to Sardinia, Cagliari in fact.
Now, are there any tourist attractions in Pisa that are not leaning towers? Well, not really. I found it difficult to find one.
I did find one more thing here, however, the Archdiocese house, I think it's called, behind, well, a house, I'm not sure, and also a very well located subway just over here.
And with that, welcome to Carl's Travel Channel, where every journey costs less than £200. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. And always remember, the nearest exit may be behind you. And please remember to hit that like and subscribe button. This is episode 6 of my big Europe adventure, all the way from London to Sicily, over land and sea, with no flying at all. I enter inside the courtyard of the Archdiocese house, which rather than having a garden inside, has this nice car park with a lovely statue as a centrepiece. Well, why have a nice garden when you can have a Ford Fiesta or a Vauxhall Astra? I head back through to the tower, passing these tatty souvenir stalls along the way. Then, right adjacent to the tower, I find this posh tourist cafe with fairly inflated prices. However, it had a great coffee selection and eateries available, including ciabattas, confectionery and snacks. But you're paying for one of the best views in Pisa. Magnifico! Are you allowed to say cheers with a coffee? Well, here, cheers anyway. What are you supposed to say without a beer? I don't know. Please let me know in the comments below. It's now time to check out a few more old relics. And no, I'm not referring to myself. Instead, this beautiful architecture, such as the dome here, which was put up in 1152. Let's see if I can remember what this is called. Ah yes.
Behind me is the Battistio di San Giovanni.
This is the largest baptistry in Italy and is a blend of Romanesque and Gothic architectural elements, evident in the round arches below. Its cemetery is also very old, dug out with earth from the Holy Land, and connects and is adjacent to the beautiful Cathedral de Pisa. Rather than risking more fines from Italian transport, I thought I would walk back to the station and come across this beautiful bridge. I then have a beer and Moretti in this nice little locals cafe. I think I was the only tourist in here. It was called the Cafe Martini, and food is also available, situated literally by the bridge overlooking the river, as seen here. It also offered a good chance to shield from the rain. Anyhow, cheers. Back at Pisa Centrale station with yet another Christmas tree left over here in January, it's time to take my train out of here. Right next door in the station building there are a few eateries, for those who are feeling peckish before they travel. Anyhow, let's head inside, and up the stairs to the platforms. There's certainly a lot to climb. Presumably there is a lift for those with accessibility needs. I didn't verify this, however. One thing that strikes me is how low the platforms are. I don't know whether that creates issues for people with accessibility problems. Please let me know in the comments below. Over here is one of the local stopping services, a Trenitalia Jazz. Certainly not too much jazzy about them after my experience on board earlier on. My cool, slightly dated looking high-speed train pulls into the platform, a Freccio Argento. I thought it was supposed to be a Freccio Bianca. I make it on board with this individual single-person seat, with plenty of legroom, and no one to disturb me. Down here is what appears to be a power socket, which I'll check out later, and there is a huge, big seatback table, which pulls and extends upwards like this. And so, here we go, pretty much on time. To avoid the fiasco this morning with the fine, please see the previous video in the series for all about that, from Bastia to Livorno. I jumped onto the train line and booked tickets for this train on there because I thought it would be safer being familiar with the interface rather than downloading the Trenitalia app and trying to work that out also, and potentially it going wrong. The downside of the train line, of course, however, is they charge you a 50p to £1 booking fee approximately, which I'd rather not pay, and if I had more time I'd certainly investigate and work out how to use the Trenitalia app instead. We slowly build up speed, heading out of Pisa Centrale station. Let's get on our way and enjoy the journey, and coming up is, as you know, one of my favourite things, train announcements.
Siamo lieti di darvi il benvenuto a bordo del Civitavecchia 86 13. Il treno arriverà a Roma Termini alle ore 17:33. Il personale Trenitalia è a vostra disposizione per qualunque esigenza e segnalazione. Vi auguriamo buon viaggio. Good morning. We are pleased to welcome you on board the Civitavecchia 8613. The train will arrive in Roma Termini at 17:33. Trenitalia staff are available to assist passengers for any need and reporting. We wish you a pleasant journey.
There's certainly a lot of graffiti heading out of this station. As we head out of the city, the first thing you see, looking west, is Pisa's airport, and you can see a vast array of what I think are military or transport aircraft, parked up in the far distance. If you like aviation as I do, it's a good opportunity to do some plane spotting. Approaching Livorno, we pass through one of the key rail freight yards in the region, and a transition from a plane spotter's paradise to a train spotter's paradise. This vast complex includes multiple parallel sidings used for the staging, sorting, and temporary storage of freight wagons. You can see different flat cars, tankers, and boxcars, evidence of Livorno's role as a large logistical hub connecting to the national rail network. As we pass Livorno, you can see the ferries over there in the distance, and a Grimaldi Lines vessel, which is a little clue to what I will be doing tonight.
With Trenitalia, we will be glad to see you again on board our trains.
We then arrive into Livorno station, where I was only just a few hours ago. As we pull into the platforms, we pass a Freccio Argento train. The Freccio Argento is a high-speed tilting train capable of reaching speeds up to 250 km an hour on high-speed and conventional lines. They allow efficient connections between cities not fully covered by the high-speed lines, such as Rome to Venice or Bolzano. The train creeps into the platform very slowly here, so let's speed this up a bit and get the show on the road. There we go, we're all docked. Oh sorry, that's a maritime term. Departing from Livorno on my first time heading south of here. As you can hear in the background, the noise of the other customers in this carriage certainly started to get a bit unbearable after a while, with many children screaming and crying. And then I suddenly thought, after looking through the tickets on the app, that it really is little extra to upgrade to first class on Trenitalia. So I'm certainly thinking in future journeys that'll be a better option. A lot of first class tickets literally only cost around €5 or €10 more. The coast approaches, and I really do love these rock formations. As a local stopping service passes us by, we emerge with an amazing Mediterranean seaside view. This section of line is kind of a suburban mix of housing and industrial units, passing a few various stations here along the way. I've left it in the video just so you get a flavour of what it's like travelling along here. Yet another beautiful coastal view of this rugged and rocky coastline. open countryside. However, as you can see, it's a very wet January day. In the winter time like now, this area of Italy is certainly not guaranteed to have sunny skies. And on board Trenitalia, you're certainly not guaranteed to have a clean window. In fact, the last train was covered in graffiti, so you are lucky to have a view at all. Time to sit back, relax, and enjoy some of the scenery. Well, for me at least. You will have to look at me instead. Rather worryingly, we are grinding to a halt, which reminds me of course of railways back in the UK at home. Let's hope this does not take too long, since I've got a ferry to catch, and a long way to go to reach my final destination of Sicily at the end of the trip. Well, thank heavens for that. We're back on our way and chugging again southwards, through the countryside and past all of the various line-side furniture.
Grazie per aver viaggiato con Trenitalia. Saremo lieti di potervi ospitare ancora a bordo dei nostri treni. We are now arriving in Campiglia Marittima. Thank you for travelling with Trenitalia. We will be glad to see you again on board our trains.
The next station we approach is Campiglia Marittima, which is where you can change trains to head to the island of Elba, which I did consider as an extended ferry adventure for this trip. However, sadly, I decided that today it would simply be too hectic for it. We pull out of Campiglia station with another Trenitalia Jazz occupying one of the platforms behind. We really build up some grandiose speeds on this high-speed railway line. I am not sure what the maximum speed is here between Pisa and Rome, but if you know, let me know in the comments below. It certainly seems fast. Into my tomato and mozzarella sandwich, which I purchased inside Pisa Centrale station. It's unusual to find UK style sandwiches in Europe, so I was pleased to see this. Some beautiful hills in the distance, with some clouds and mist swirling around their tops. I think this is in the Terli region of Italy, one of the few hilly or mountainous areas by the coast. It's now time for something I've never done on this channel before. You're probably very apprehensive as to what it is. Yes, it's a loo review, so a warm welcome to the toilet. Over here we've got some conveniences, such as a soap dispenser and a small sink, which you cannot use for drinking water. Overall, I thought it was very good in here actually, and pretty clean too. And many apologies, there's no silly graphics or tunes or jingles playing for me finishing the loo review. If you want to watch that, please go and watch another YouTuber's channel. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, and already seen quite a few with such oddities.
We are now arriving in Roseto. Thank you for travelling with Trenitalia. We will be glad to see you again on board our trains. I viaggiatori troveranno il treno Intercity 36 407 per Salerno delle ore 16 e 14 con un ritardo Centrale.
As the announcements say, we pull into Grosseto station, and the train opposite really does look like one of the old intercity trains back in the UK. It's even called intercity as well. It looked like it was from a different era. There was the shorter train behind it, which is called a Minetto. The Minetto appears to be a diesel multiple unit, used on the routes more off the beaten track. We say goodbye to the last station sign for Grosseto and continue our journey south.
13. The train will arrive in Roma. Trenitalia staff are available to assist passengers for any needed reporting.
In fact, I believe that is the last stop before today's destination of the port of Civitavecchia, so the excitement is slowly building up. This section of line here approaching is some beautiful open scenery along the coastline, with a few rolling hills in the background, passing high speed through the many various stations where we do not stop at. There is some beautiful scenery in the background here of the clouds swirling over the hills, so I know this is exactly the point that you will stop watching the video. But don't worry, after only a minute of this natural, marshy and landscape terrain, there's some nice grungy power plants and freight terminals for you to see. The evening sun is slowly coming out, making me feel in a more maritime departure mood. With the backdrop of the glaring sun behind, we then pass this rather sinister looking what I believe is an electricity power plant, but I'm not quite sure. If you know what it is, let me know in the comments below. Emerging from the other side of it, we then get our first exciting glimpse of the vast port and freight facilities of Civitavecchia, the port of Rome. I keep my eyes eagerly peeled in the distance through the buildings to see what ships I can spot, including ferries, cruise ships and tankers. I can certainly spy a large cruise liner over there and a huge blue funnel with the logo on, I think, of GNV Ferries. But alas, sadly, that's not the company we will be going on tonight. The train slows down further and the suburbs approach.
Siamo in arrivo a Civitavecchia. Grazie per aver viaggiato con Trenitalia. Saremo lieti di potervi ospitare ancora a bordo dei nostri treni. And now arriving in Civitavecchia. Thank you for traveling with Trenitalia. We will be glad to see you again on board our trains. I viaggiatori troveranno il treno regionale 4133 per Roma Termini delle ore 16:44. Regionale 12723 per Roma Termini delle ore 16:52 al binario 1 tronco. Intercity 36.
And that's it, we finally arrived. Welcome to Civitavecchia station. I'm excited to see what it's like here for the first time, and I must admit, I'm also a little apprehensive because port cities can often be quite run down. Exit is down through an underpass and through this small, unassuming station building. Well, that's always a good sign. If I'm really stuck for food here, there's at least an obligatory McDonald's available. A variety of buses here are berthed outside the station. I'm sure there is one to take you to the port if you so wish. However, I've got plenty of time, so let's see if I can just walk it. There's certainly a lot of fast food. If a McDonald's is not enough, there's also a Burger King. Now let's head down into town, and on the way I pass this fairly swanky looking Hotel de la Ville. The Admiral Club. I wonder what goes on in there. I then found this heavily fenced off statue like a fortress, which seems to celebrate the Roman Republic of 1849. There's time for a little break, so I find this modern trendy bar for a pre-departure drink of Heineken at an excellent price of only €4. Music, of course, in the bar has been muted. After enjoying the pint, crossing over the road to the beachfront, I then climb up these stairs to this incredible viewpoint, and wow, what a stunning Mediterranean view with a gorgeous sunset across the sea. Down below it are some lovely boutique stores, with this one having 50% off Saudi. And next door, you could get poked by a burger. Continuing towards the port, it gets a lot quieter, and the sun begins to go down. I discover, however, this amazing fortress. This area of the city is very historic. As I continue along, I then pass this huge, amazing, elaborate fountain, sponsored by Pope Benedict XIV. It really is impressive. And over to the west of this is Porto Livorno, an old city gate. The modern marina is on the opposite side of the road. Another interesting find here, a reconstruction of part of a Liburna, an ancient warship of the Roman fleet. This is a life-size replica of part of one of the vessels. I then came across this very large building and structure surrounded by these nice gardens and very old city walls. It's labelled as the Roma Cruise Terminal, however I'm slightly confused here because it's basically located in a fishing harbour and marina, so I'm not really sure how people get from here to the large cruise ships. It's a bit of an enigma to me. If you know, please let me know in the comments below, but it certainly has this warren of different balconies and viewing areas with a nice view over the marina. I do spy a cruise ship in the distance though, maybe they come in by tender. However, its layout is so confusing, I almost got lost in here and it took me quite a while to work out how to find my way out. Ah yes, here we go, phew. It's just down these stairs here, and back down to the harbour front. Underneath the complex is this huge, fascinating fishing rope area, where all of the various fishing equipment is stored, and easily seen and accessible to the public. It's quite unique, with the array of various different fishing boats and vessels parked just over the road. It is certainly not something you see every day, and the smell of fish is very strong. Now it's time to make my way by foot out to the ferry terminal. I must add that this is a very long walk, and if you have accessibility and walking needs, I would recommend to take a taxi instead. It's probably about 15 to 20 minutes at my fast walking pace. The good thing, however, is the pedestrian routes are clearly marked with these white zebra lines. However, the signage, at least for the Grimaldi terminal, is very poor and it's not really that clear where I'm supposed to be going. So, let's just hope for the best. A few small ferry destination signs here, such as Porto Torres. Now, is this the right place? I think this is Terminal 1. Finally, I approach what I think is the terminal. Now, let's see if we can try to get inside. Ah, no, definitely not in here. But, alas, round the other side, we are in. I remember seeing this on Steve Marsh's video, and it was certainly a lot busier back then. A lot of gaming machines and a small cafe. Inside this very abandoned looking terminal, I spoke to the people at the Grimaldi desk, and they told me that I didn't need to do anything except wait for the bus outside here, and I could use my e-ticket confirmation to board the ship. And why make a seat out of wood when you can make it out of concrete? I then sit here waiting apprehensively at the bus stop where there is no timetable, so we just have to hope for the best. And an overview of the outside of the terminal, which looks a little like an old aircraft hangar, La Autostrada del Mar, serving both Grimaldi and GNV lines. Phew, after about 10 to 15 minutes, it's turned up. It is certainly busy on board the bus, with me and one other passenger. We pass the various array of berths, with the closest here to the terminal being the GNV Polaris, with its huge funnel lit up in the night. however, is okay, and it's not pouring of smoke, like the one in Portsmouth was, on my trip to Santander, which you can watch the video of on my channel. Off the bus, and hopefully this is the right stop for Cagliari and harbour tax. Now, where on earth do we go? I made it through the security checks in one of the circus-looking like pavilions, and now it's time to walk down this long passageway, which I must admit, looks like I'm going to prison.
This is certainly an experience.
The excitement builds, and it's time to walk the plank. I noticed on the back of the ship there is a large IMO number, presumably International Maritime Organisation. I don't recall seeing this on other vessels. I enter the very industrial-looking door to board, and entrance is an ascent up one of the usual Mediterranean ferry-style escalators. This is of course ideal for those with any walking or mobility issues. Making it to the top and on board, we enter the Grimaldi reception desk area. It is from here you need to pick up your cabin key card, as they don't give it to you prior to boarding. With my key card collected and a big frown from the member of staff, it's time to head to the floor where my cabin is. However, on arriving here, they told me that my cabin had been changed already, so I needed to go for another one. This certainly didn't bode well. This is confusing, and it's on this little booth desk below the member of staff stands. I retook this later on to avoid having them in camera, so we just go down here to my cabin. The vessel is bright, clean and airy inside. However, I must admit it looks very industrial. The classic ferry cabin key card test starts. Will it open the door? Oh dear. Eventually, after some more wriggling it about, it does work, and we're in, and my first view of the cabin. The bed, however, looks okay, but the first thing I notice is how dark it is in here, and I believe this was the fall lighting on the ceiling. It also smelled slightly musky of pets. We do, however, have the Grimaldi branded towels provided, and this large wardrobe with a ladder for the bunk beds attached. Now let's take a look in the bathroom, with a light switch here on the outside, and what looks like a nice freshly cleaned toilet, and wash basin, and a big proper full-length shower. It would work mediocre, I must admit, the next day, but space-wise the bathroom is pretty big.
Well, I'm on board, and first thoughts are not too great. However, we'll see what happens. It's quite funny anyway.
They do, however, have the ferry equivalent of an in-flight magazine called the Mar Nostrum. I must say this is probably the best complimentary ferry magazine I've ever seen, because not only does it have lots of different articles about travel and the usual marketing information, there are also detailed statistics pages on all of the different vessels that Grimaldi operates. I then do what I always do after first boarding a ferry and head up to the deck to get an overview of the harbour and local surroundings. Obviously fairly dark here at night, and we can have a little walk along here to start orientating ourselves around the ferry's decks. To the right there through the windows is one of the main cafeteria lounge bars. We'll be trying the delights of that out later. Stay tuned, you're in for a treat. I love the way the breakwater in the distance is brilliantly lit. Now let's do some exploring upstairs and see what we find. And finding the classic ship's lifebelt, welcome aboard the MN Corfu. Some very loud announcements are about to start, so I'll let you listen to those whilst I explore all of the ship's various outside decks. There's a lot. This is actually a car ramp to the right adjacent to a passenger walkway, a unique design on these Byzantinas. I love this up-close view of the rear car deck, very rare on a ferry to be able to see it en route.
Nous vous remercions pour votre attention et vous souhaitons un bon voyage. Pour votre sécurité, le signal général d'urgence se compose d'une série d'au moins 7 coups de sifflet brefs, suivis
good to see the lifeboats, at least, are in place below. Just as the muster alarm sounds. Fairly worrying.
Mettez des vêtements chauds et portez avec vous les médicaments indispensables. Dirigez-vous vers le point de réunion suivant la voie principale de sortie, indiquée sur le panneau. Vous êtes ici. Il se trouve derrière la porte de votre
The
cabine.
helipad for emergency evacuations, right up on
En
top.
cas d'urgence, si vous n'êtes pas dans votre cabine, rendez-vous directement au point de réunion selon le parcours indiqué par les flèches. Sur le point de réunion, au besoin, le
One thing I love about these Visentini vessels is the excellent view of the car decks below at the back. This is the best view looking down towards her stern. We'll see more of that in the daylight tomorrow. Now up on the very high top deck before we get blasted by the ventilation fans. I always love the industrial sound of a vessel.
Al punto di riunione, qualora necessario, il personale di bordo vi fornirà una cintura di salvataggio per adulti o per bambini.
I think these are the crew quarters through these windows. Various trip hazards on deck here that nearly sent me flying too.
Non tornate per nessun motivo nella vostra cabina. Nel caso fosse fumo nei corridoi, dirigetevi a gattoni verso l'uscita di emergenza, seguendo i segnali direzionali fotofluorescenti posti in basso lungo i corridoi e le scale. Su questa nave ci sono i seguenti punti di riunione. Punto di riunione A, Ponte 5, area interna prua. Punto di riunione B, Ponte 5, centro nave. Questa nave è dotata di due lanci.
Departure time for tonight's crossing will be 2000 hours, and it's a long voyage, not arriving until 11 AM tomorrow.
Seguite sempre le
Finally back where we started off, at the car ramp. It reminds me of one of those Matchbox car toy playsets with the multiple speed ramps I had as a kid.
attivare il punto di
Back inside in the warm, it's food and drink time, which I'm much looking forward to. A look here at the drinks menu so you get an idea of the pricing. It's not too expensive, but certainly not cheap either, especially for small servings. Food though is what is really needed now, and there are two eating areas to the right and left. The a la carte on the left here, with its menu, and the more casual self-service area to the right, where you have to queue up for a canteen style food. This is what I decided to pick. Now to wait for it to open. Opening times are only 2 hours of the voyage. Failing all these options, or if it's closed, like now, there's the confectionery machine. Some extra seats behind here, which I think is like an overspill area for the canteen. It's now open, so time for some food. I ordered the lasagna, which is delightful. Not only is it slightly burned, it's also slightly cold. The whole thing cost me €11 for the lasagna and the Coke. After escaping the awfulness of the food, it was time for an after-dinner drink, so I try this Ichnusa, a local beer from Sardinia. It's cost €5.30, pretty expensive, only for a bottle and not a pint. And just wait till you see the ferry's entertainment. Yes, there it is, a 21-inch television. It was, however, showing the San Remo Song Contest, for a little bit of light fun. I decided then to add this muffin for around €3 or €4 to my aperitif. A final thing to point out here that's very important, make sure to bring some cash because the credit card machine stopped working. There's only one thing now for it with the excitement in this bar, yes, it's to nod off and fall asleep. But then again, would you do the same? I wake up to find the bar closed. At least the onboard entertainment is still playing on the TV. It's then time to do what I always do on a ferry before I go to sleep, and take a midnight stroll out on deck, getting bombarded by the fresh, brisk, cold sea air. We are now well underway, which at this time of year is a cold and dark Mediterranean Sea, heading southwards. On this easily accessible section of the deck is the canine kennel, with these nice little cages inside, ready for your dogs. And there we go, you can have a look. Looks like it's nice and comfortable in there for them. No occupants inside today, however. A final blast of fresh midnight sea air before retiring to my cabin. The lights of the mainland dwindle in the distance. Now heading back inside, these doors really are difficult to open, and one of them even slammed on my foot. Heading back down the maze of corridors, and well, will the key card work this time? Let's see. Oh wow, second time lucky. That's a lot better than before. Given how haphazard some things are on this vessel, I was slightly expecting to find somebody else in one of the beds, but phew, there is not. I wonder what their name would be. Let me know in the comments below. It's time to bunk down in my bed for the night with this lovely Grimaldi branded sheeting. And let's try and get some shut-eye now and enjoy the rest. Good night from on board the MN Corfu.
Well, good morning from Grimaldi and the MN Corfu. It was actually a pretty good night's sleep, to be fair. I only woke up this early as the ship made an intermediary stop in Arbiter or Arbitax, I think it's called. And I wasn't quite sure if they were going to make everyone get out their cabins, but no, they didn't. In fact, the whole ship has been a better standard than expected, and the cabin bed was very comfortable, very clean, no complaints at all really. So anyway, let's go upstairs on deck and see if we can see any of Sardinia as we hug the coastline all the way down to our final destination of Cagliari.
Heading out of my cabin, I stop here halfway down the stairs, and I literally have no idea why. But well, there you go, I've left us in anyway. As I head outside through the doors, the beautiful dawn light becomes visible, if not slightly interrupted by the clouds. Let's head through the middle and check out the other side, as that should be where the land is visible. Watch your head. And there we are, land ahoy. We hug the coastline of Sardinia as we head southwards to do a turn around the bottom of the island and back up towards Cagliari. The weather certainly looks menacing out there this morning. Excuse my hair, it's been very windswept.
It's certainly very misty out here today, however, let's go upstairs and see if we can see a good view from the top.
The coast of Sardinia is visible in the distance as the dark, stormy clouds hang over the top of it. Let's let's head back inside and do a tour around the parts of the ship that I've not shown you yet. First of all is the store, which is rather odd as it seems to predominantly sell gifts rather than the usual duty-free that you see on ferries. There are some toys, lots of bags and a small perfume selection, and this Grimaldi merchandise area in the window. I have no idea what that loud noise is. The welcome poster we passed yesterday as you board the vessel. Now let's see where this leads through here. I must admit, being used to Brittany ferries, I was expecting a public floor to be all entertainment and meeting type areas, but instead this is just a whole bunch of cabins. So let's see where it goes. Alright, finally, the bar and cafeteria area. There is certainly not much to this ship, and not much on board, but there being a Visentini, also with all the extra cabins, and the big car deck on the back, I wouldn't really expect there to be much public space. The bar we just passed and were in last night is off here to the left. Daylight view of the car ramp and the funnel steaming away. But alas, we can go no further. This morning the high deck has been roped off, presumably maybe due to this bad weather, and a day view of those protrusions sticking out of the deck that I nearly tripped over in the middle of the night. Heading back inside, it's time for breakfast. Well, breakfast of sorts. The best I could find was a croissant. I think we need more coffee on the Corfu, plus an eye-watering €9. A little sit down in the bar and blasted with announcements.
Sono aperti per i vostri servizi di colazione. Grazie per la vostra attenzione. Dear passenger, we remind you that our bus standings and bars located on deck number 5 are open for your breakfast services. Thank you for your attention.
Back outside, and not only has the coastline of Cagliari come out, the sun has come out too. Over there, below the airplane trails, is Cagliari's most beautiful beach, Poetto, where I will be visiting during the next video. Keep your eyes peeled. For now, however, let's spend about 30 seconds exploring the ship during the daylight, so you can see what I explored last night with the sun shining. I'm not sure what this thing is here, folded over on its side.
Well, here we are, arriving into Cagliari, and wow, the sun has finally come out and it's gorgeous outside. And I'm standing up here all on my own on this giant deck.
The bright sun is certainly making me squint. Then, a common feature of most Italian ferry ports, the pilot boat comes out to join us. We then enter through the breakwater into Cagliari Harbour, with its small, presumably unmanned lighthouse on the end. A few what looks like fishermen down there, ready for a morning catch. lighthouse on the other side, the pilot's boat escorts us into the port. This then leaves me a little bit of time for the all-important positives and negatives summary of the Grimaldi Corfu experience. Starting with the positives, the tickets were not too expensive for what I paid, especially without a car. I'll move on to the pricing later on. The ship was also very clean all over in the cabin and in the public areas, and the sailing was nice and punctual and on time. I have tried to think of more positives, but sadly I couldn't really think of any. Moving on to the negatives, the staff were very curt and I thought abrupt and rude sounding, and seemed quite grumpy and not very happy to be doing their jobs. The vessel, although of course there isn't really any choice on this route, was small with small passenger areas. The worst thing aboard was the food, which was very, very poor and a lack of choice for both food and beverage. So, is life grim on the Grimaldi? Well, I'll leave you to make your minds up, but to be honest, compared to some of the other videos I saw online and reviews, I really didn't think it was too bad overall. Stay tuned also for my next video, because that will be on the larger Grimaldi ship, the Europa Palace, where there are a lot more passenger areas and decks to explore. Now, as discussed a moment ago, the total price I paid for this sailing, booking around 2 months in advance, was €69, and that included the ticket price and the price for an exclusive use single cabin. I think it was on offer at the time and is normally around €100. The ferry then makes its intricate 180-degree manoeuvre to enter Cagliari harbour. Now a little more information about the vessel we are on, the Corfu, which was built by Cantiere Navale Visentini at Portovoro and launched in late 2006. She was originally named the Cartor Gamma and entered service in December of that year and was chartered by several Italian operators until Grimaldi Lines purchased her and renamed her the Corfu in June 2018. She is 186 metres long and 25 metres wide and weighs 27,000 gross tonnes. She belongs to the Visentini class of vessels, which have been being built since 1997. The Corfu carries almost 1,000 passengers at 972 and has 124 cabins, with also space for 170 vehicles on the car deck. And wow, just like on my Newcastle Amsterdam trip with the King Seaways, look at the speed of those birds. And here we are, pulling into our dock in Cagliari. The vessel has kicked up this interesting array of detritus from the seabed below, and of course the birds are now swirling around it, looking no doubt for fish who have been disturbed out of place. Right, I better head down and out of here and quickly off the vessel before I get locked on board. A nice Grimaldi Lines container here in front. A final view of the Grimaldi welcome sign in the lobby before I leave. It's time once again to head back down the escalator and onto dry land. I then got told by this guy to put the camera down, so unfortunately there's no filming in the port. Now out of the terminal and through the security area, welcome to Cagliari. There's this nice little boardwalk here into the town. Of course there was no immigration because I was only travelling from one part of Italy to another, and there is the Corfu docked over in the distance. The best thing about travelling to Cagliari by ferry is the port is literally right in the middle of the city centre, and there is a nice easy, well marked pedestrian route here for you to access it within about 10 minutes. I have got one night here now to see the sights of Cagliari, and then tomorrow I'll be taking yet another Grimaldi ship, which you'll be seeing in my next video. Please stay tuned. So from myself here in Old Town Cagliari, now let's go and find a very much needed coffee. And with that, thank you for watching Carl's Travel Channel. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.